Let's talk about working with remote teams or as a member of a remote team somewhere around the globe. As you can see, I'm in a hotel room today and I'm actually visiting other teams which are working in a different location that I usually work in. So I wanted to use this opportunity to talk about how we can cope with other teams and how we can generally collaborate better with people who are not working in the same office or in the same location as you are working in. Now, working with technology and working in a globalized environment oftentimes means that you need to be working with teams somewhere on the other side of the globe. This can sometimes be hard because there are things like time zone differences, but also like language barriers and communication barriers. But it makes sense for lots of companies in any industry probably to have different teams in different locations. I would say almost every company I've worked for so far, I had to deal with teams which were not at the same location, at the same office location as I was. In fact, oftentimes I was the person who was in the minority team, so to say. That the team I was working with was a team which was not in the headquarters of the company, which can be a very challenging situation to be in because those teams at some satellite location can often feel isolated from the rest of the company. This is just a fact, and oftentimes you can't really do anything about it, but you can again make the best out of your situation and try to improve the situation you're in. Now, if you're in one of those teams at a satellite location, it's probably in your best interest to pick up as many communication channels you can with teams in other locales and other places. Now, as a developer, this can be positive and negative. The positive side is that because you don't have many teams around you, you probably won't get sidetracked that easily, so you won't get pulled into a lot of side projects and that kind of stuff. On the other hand, it can have a couple of downsides. First of all, what I experienced the most was that you have the people in your team which have a certain amount of knowledge and they know certain areas like technology stacks which were used in the company. But if you were looking for tips and tricks and guidance on how to use different technology which was common throughout the company, chances were that your team members or the teams, the members of the teams around you didn't have that knowledge. Now, if you were all in the same location, it's really easy to just walk to somebody, to somebody's desk and ask that person or ask that team for some guidance or for some support. So what you can do as an engineer who is not in a leadership position, you can actually try to ask for travel opportunities and you can try to encourage people to ask for travel opportunities because those will get you closer to other people in other locations. And that's always a good idea because you want to have some connections with other teams, you want to know about their projects and their opportunities, and you want to know people so that you can just ask them without going through a lot of hoops to find out simple things. Now, if you're in a leadership position and you have the means for that and you have the budget for that, it certainly makes sense to encourage people to travel. Not for fun, but in cases where it just makes sense for somebody to go to a place for a couple of days instead of setting up meetings which are delayed because of time zone differences and then waiting for email communication to happen. It can be so much more efficient to set up a couple of meetings and get together in one location and do 1 or 2 days of real brainstorming and working together to solve a problem and to get a project on track compared to just doing it via email or chat communication. Also, from a career perspective, I can only encourage you to take the opportunities you have to travel to other locations, meet people and talk to people. It never hurts to stick your face into a room and actually talk to those people you work with in person. They will think about you whenever interesting projects come up. They will think of you before they will think of somebody who they only know through email and chat, right? You will have better results talking to them. You will know how to communicate with them a lot better because you met them in person. You can, you get a feeling for how a person works and how you can efficiently communicate with a person if you know that person well. And to know a person well, you usually need to meet that person somewhere for at least a couple of meetings or at least a couple of occasions. Now let's talk about the things you can do if you don't have the opportunity to travel or if the travel opportunities you get are just too rare to make an impact. So one thing you can do if you can't travel is actually setting up some sort of recurring meeting or recurring workshop we can do with 2 or 3 or even more teams. Oftentimes as developers and engineers, it works well if you pick a common topic that doesn't even need to be a super work-related topic. It could also be just a favorite programming language. And try to find this area of interest where people from different teams will be contributing and will be participating, which gets those people together in one video conference, if not a room. So that, building those relationships. Nice side effect of this will be that besides connecting people, you will build up this tribal knowledge, which in every company exists. And in every company, tribal knowledge is crucial for your success as an engineer. Because of course we would like to document everything and we would like to document lessons learned so that people who come after us will not make the same mistakes and will do stuff more efficiently. But in reality, not everything is documented. And the chance that you will learn this tribal knowledge and you will expand your tribal knowledge if you talk to different kind of teams and different people all around the company is just a lot higher. So recurring meetings and workshops or roundtables are one thing you can do. Another thing would be getting involved with away team projects. So projects, trying to get involved with projects where multiple teams are working together and collaborating. Oftentimes I notice that these kind of projects are not super popular because working across teams and working across continents maybe can be challenging and can be painful, especially in the beginning. So probably people will be happy that you jump to that opportunity and if you take that opportunity because it's not a super popular thing to do. And it will be painful in the beginning. Probably it will be painful, especially if you haven't worked with those people before. But you will learn a lot and you will build those relationships which will help you with future projects and which will help you in your career. Finally, let's talk about a couple of day-to-day tips you should have in mind if you're working as a remote team member or if you're working with remote teams. Let's say you are working in a headquarters and you're working with satellite location teams. You don't really notice the pain that those away team members have. So try to put yourself into their position and try to imagine how it feels like to be, them sitting in an isolated location and trying to communicate with you as much as possible. So there are things like good microphones and stepping closer to microphones or just improving the conferencing quality, which will help tremendously in communication. So if you have like stand-ups or video conferences with those remote team members, make an effort to either get better equipment or just encourage people to come closer so that audio quality is improved. Because it seems ridiculous, right? It's like this small thing and you would assume that people speak up, but in reality you don't want to speak up every time you're in a meeting with somebody and again you can't hear them correctly. So be very proactive about that and encourage people to improve the situation. Another thing to consider is if you're working with remote teams, those people won't hear your spontaneous conversations in the office. So you're working on something, you stand up and you go to a colleague and you ask him about a couple of things, and maybe you go to a whiteboard and start drawing something on a whiteboard. The guys around you will notice that conversation and will have the context if you start talking about that in the next conference, maybe in the next meeting. The guys in the remote location, they don't have that context. So what can you do in that case? Take a picture of the whiteboard where you maybe drew an architecture diagram and send them a chat message or send them an email and give them a 1 or 2 sentence explanation of what you discussed. They will be really grateful for that. They will be grateful that you thought about them, and it will make the collaboration a lot easier because now they will also have that context and they will know the next time you guys are speaking that this was already discussed or there was already a solution found. Or if they look at this diagram and they realize, oh, okay, maybe there's a better solution for that, you will be thankful for that because now you have more data points to consider. And lastly, when it comes to remote team collaboration, you will notice how important email communication and just written communication will become. So really make an effort to line out emails and all the written communication you have very clearly. Think about putting all the information needed in those emails, even if somebody doesn't have that context from other discussions and discussions which happened just spontaneously at your desk. So try to be very clear, try to outline the most important parts, and take a little bit more time and put a little bit more effort into those written communications. Okay, let me know what you think of today's topic. Leave a comment, don't forget to subscribe. My name is Ramon Lopez and this is Success in Tech.